Alright, today I'm going to go over the 92 FS 9mm Beretta pistol. Now in the civilian world there's two types that usually people carry. There's the Italian version and the USA version. The US version is the one I'm going to go over today. I'm a firearms instructor, so I can attest to most of the stuff that Beretta has to offer. All I'm going to do is provide you the info today, so hopefully you'll have an experience with this weapon that you can appreciate. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started with this pistol. I have actually brought one for a demonstration. This is one of my own pistols. It's a little bit beat up because I buy my stuff used if I was going to. As I come on down right here, before I tell you the nomenclature of this pistol, which can be all provided from me, Beretta.com, lists everything on here, I'm going to show you how to clear this pistol out, because every time you have a weapon you should make sure to clear it out before you handle it. So it's on safe right here, you can see on the red. Of course there's no magazine inside this chamber, or inside the magazine well. As I lock the slide back, you can see inside the chamber itself there's no live round, which lets me know that this weapon is clear and it's safe to handle. With that being said, let's send the slide forward. I'm going to talk about the pieces of this weapon. On the front I have my front sight post. Of course I have my slide itself. On the slide I have my barrel resting in there. I have my disassembly button on this side. I have my pistol grips. As I come on top I can see my rear sight. I have my hammer in the back. Single action, double action, which I'll go over in a minute. My safety, of course, as I went over. I have the tang of the weapon. As I come on down, I can see the serrated edges around it. I have the lanyard loop on the bottom, in case I want to attach it to my belt, which I don't recommend. Of course, I have my pistol grip on the other side as I move along. I have my slide stop, which stops the slide and goes back. I have my magazine release button. And I have my disassembly lever. Now to go a little bit into the inside parts, all I do is push down on the button, remove the front, slide it off. This is the lower receiver, of course. I have my slide rails on the bottom. They're a little bit small compared to most pistols, which will ride along the whole receiver itself. I have my fixed ejector right here, which hits the back of the casing. Okay, of course I can see the hammer. I know it's a little bit dark to see inside here, but I just have to bear with me as I go over the pieces of it. I won't take the barrel out, but I have the recoil spring and guide. The guide only works to, just as the name said. I have the barrel, of course, which you can see on the top that I showed you. I have my small locking block, which that sits onto. And of course the slide rails on the inside of the slide itself. With that being said, that's the pieces of this weapon. Now to see what these pieces do, let's go ahead and go to the characteristics of it. TacticalLife.com rates the pistol as firing at an effective range of 25 yards. Now in the military we go off meters, which we use about 50 meters to max effective. And I usually say it's about 25 meters for a good sighting. There's also the max distance the round can travel, which is 1,800 meters, which is pretty far. It's always important to know, especially what's going to happen once you fire off that round. How far is it actually going to go if you miss your target? It carries a 12 to 15 round clip, weighs 31 ounces unloaded, 41 ounces loaded. It's a double action and single action pistol, which that means is if I was to pull this trigger, the first time it went off, it would be in double action. After that, it would cock back and it would be in single action. It's recoil operated. Recoil goes forward, which means when I pull that trigger, the firepower pretty much sends the slide back, recoils back, chambers up a new round, and it'll eject the old round. So it's a little bit about the characteristics of it. You know about the parts. Let's go about the safety of this weapon. It's pretty much why a lot of people choose it. And it's a nice mid-sized pistol. It's thin enough to fit in everybody's hands, which everybody likes. It's not really safe though if you couldn't hold the pistol and at least pull the trigger. As I come up on the bottom right here, I have my trigger, of course. The weapon is already flipped on safe. If I was to pull that trigger, there's a small block that rises up right there. That's the firing pin block. It blocks the firing pin from going forward. In the back right here, there's a little back wall. that the hammer cannot slam into. If I was to place it on fire, you could see the firing pin striker in the back. I could squeeze the trigger. That would hit that, and that would send the firing pin forward. This block would rise up out of the way because it's on fire. It rotates up. Also, another safety feature on this is the safety itself. Instead of having to manually decock it back by pulling the trigger and riding it forward, which can be unsafe if I slipped off of it, the weapon's in single action. All I have to do is flip the safety down, and it decocks it. I'll show you that one more time. I flip it down right here in the front if I can see that. I'm going to send the hammer forward. Hammer goes forward, and it slams against that flat part as I talked about before. Well, all in all, that's pretty safe little functions on there. Of course, another few small things. There's serrated edges all over this pistol itself, which makes it nice to grip, especially if my hands get sweaty. There's always a lot of things I can grab onto. And one more thing too. I have the half cock notch. When I'm squeezing this trigger, there's one small click where the hammer is lightly pulled back towards the middle. If I was in single action and I was to drop this pistol, it's supposed to grab into that notch without going forward, which is nice to know in case I ever did drop it. Of course, another thing, if I pulled it and I wanted to stop pulling the trigger, it would still catch in that notch and I could keep going from there, but I could also safely decock this weapon. So let's recap a little bit. We talked about the nomenclature, the characteristics, and the safety of this weapon. So now that you know a little bit about this info of it, you can go more in depth if you were to check Beretta.com. It will tell you more there is to this weapon. But hopefully the information I provided you will help you when you're down the road, maybe when you're buying a weapon. Not necessarily that you have to buy this weapon, but hopefully you can make the right choice based on all this info, and you make the right decision. Thanks.